Hi, I'm Mitch Peacock and this is Get Into Woodworking, and I'm filling in some of the larger holes on the underside of the tabletop for my scalable table. I'm using a 2-part wood filler, but I've added some acrylic paint just to give it a little colour, and hopefully that'll be a nice contrast with the wood. I'm not sure if it's going to work properly, so we'll find out later. Now, this filler went off far too quick. It's fine here. I think that'll polish to a nice finish, but in other places it's just got too grainy too quickly. If it really is bad, then I'll have to dig it out and start again. But you don't know unless you try. Having filled the back of the holes with the quick setting 2-part filler, I can now use a thin filler because it won't go all the way through, and I'm going to be using CA glues. I've got a medium and a high viscosity one there, and I'm going to be using some brass chippings. I've used this many times before, and it can be quite nice. The CA glue will set semi-transparent, so you need to have enough filler in there so that you don't see through to the coloured filler on the underside. So the high viscosity holds onto a base layer, and then I go for the medium viscosity to fill in. When the CA glue's set, you can pare away most of it with a chisel, then move on to either a card scraper or some sandpaper. I'm laying out for the leg to the top rail joint at the moment. I want the feet to be roughly the same width apart as the diameter of the table. I want to use the same 105-degree internal angle for the leg to rail. So I've set that on my bevel gauge, and I'm just roughly setting them out. That then gives me the distance between the legs on the shorter half of the laminated rail. On this one it's about 6 1/4 inches. So I can mark up for that, use my bevel gauge to mark the cuts, which will obviously be that direction and the same over there. And I can get those two rails, I'll get those two sections for the rails cut. I did say that I would make this with just the one saw, so here we go. And definitely this sort of saw is better suited to rough cutting. I'm not sure if I've explained shooting before, but I'm using the bench hook the other way round so that I've got a flat end on the fence against the side of the base here. I can put my piece of work up there, resting against the fence and with the angle set against the flat side, just protruding a little bit. Now the non-cutting part of the plane, this bottom side, rides against the baseboard. That stops it cutting in and moving across, whilst the blade itself can cut the wood. And we're able to then take end grain shavings off there and gradually approach our knife line. Now I'm just using the cut-off wedge that I took off here put in there to support my material at the right angle. You can approach your knife line nice and slowly, shaving it at a time, get a nice square edge. There you can see how well that joint's starting to come together. Now I can knife in for the cuts to the longer section of the rail. To mark the ends of the legs for cutting, I've clamped them all together, and I've got my layout mark on one of the legs there. I just use a square, mark them all at the same time, both ends, and then we'll know they're all the same length. Using the combination panel saw is a lot less accurate for cuts like this. Be much better off with a back saw or a Japanese pull saw. But if I stay just shy of the line, we can always clean it up on the shooting board. I'm laying out for the first pair of legs now, so I've got the short rail, I've got the two long legs coming up to the same height as the top of that rail. I've got one of the short legs clamped on top. This is going to be the other short leg. So I get that lined up with the first leg. Now these two sides of the legs have to be cut off at the same height as the bottom of this rail, so they join up with the top rail, and I can put the top rail on there, just get something to line everything up with. Like so. And I can mark for the cuts. Now we can just cut off the excess here and here, and to make sure that's a clean cut, I'm going to use the marking knife just to mark those lines in. Before we glue the components up, we need to make sure that all of them are the same thickness. So a little bit of planing. So I'm ready to glue up the two sections of the rail now. I've got myself a nice flat board, I've overlapped the workbench, and I've clamped on a straight edge. So I can pull my rail up, short rail up close to that straight edge, put the legs in place, and then when I've applied glue to the centre of that rail, I can drop the top rail on, line it up with the outside of the legs, pull it tight against the straight edge at the back, apply the clamps, and remove the legs. So up against my straight edge, bring the legs in, bring the other half of the rail in, line it up with the legs, with the straight edge, put a bit of protection on here for where the clamps are going. Got a clamping cool here to spread the pressure down on the lower side of the rail. Now clamping cool is slightly curved section, so I've pulled it down tight here, it's lifted very slightly this end. When I pull it down tight on this end here, it'll be nice and tight in the middle as well. And that's it, just in time for my phone. I almost forgot, you want to remove the legs at this point because we don't want them glued in. Now remove the straight edge at the back because we don't want that to stick to any excess glue.
That's it till next time. Cheerio. take a moment to like, comment and subscribe, and follow me on social media for extra photos and videos from the workshop. Cheerio!